Graphing nonlinear equations. Okay, we're going to graph y equals x squared, y equals the square root of x, and y equals the absolute value of x. I'm using decimals here. We're going to use decimals to help us get a table for each of these, kind of see where our points are going to go. So I'm going to click here on y equals x squared and go to the edit list, and it gives me a table right here for the x y equals x squared, and it already puts the numbers in there for me. So I got -2, x is -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. So these are all the input numbers that you put in for x. So if x is -2, -2 to the second power is -2 times -2, which is +4. And these are the answers, or should I say, the output. And so we put in 5 inputs, -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2, and you get 5 outputs, 4, 1, 0, and 1, 4. These outputs and inputs actually create a point. So each point is actually telling us what the input was and the output. So you input -2 into this equation, you're going to get 4. This point represents the ideal of inputting -1 and getting 1. This is inputting 0 and getting 0. That's inputting 1 and getting 1. And lastly, inputting 2 and 2 and getting 4. Now you can continue this, but we have enough points right here to create a shape and show us what the shape of this x squared is. And let's rebuild the shape, and it's a parabola. For x squared, you can come up with 5 points right here and create your parabola. Next, let's go to the square root of x and take a look at it. And let's click here, go here, get a table. And you'll notice that when I try to put in -2, -1, it's undefined. That's because you can't take square roots of negative numbers. So for this one, oh, let me get rid of the red one. Let me go up real quick. We don't need this graph anymore. Okay. Did I do it all? Let's see. Oh, I gotta get rid of the graph. Okay. So it's giving us what happens when you put in 0. If you put 0 in here, you get 0. If you put in 1, square root of 1 is 1. But the square root of 2, about 1.4. I had to do the square root of 2 a lot, so I kind of know the 1.4. I have it memorized. Let me see if I can put a couple more numbers in here to help us see the shape here. Let's put in a 3. Square root of 3, I think, is 1.7. Ah, I was right. And we'll put in one more. 4. I know the square root of 4 is 2. And there we go. So we have the negatives are going to give us undefined, so it never goes into the negative area because there are no answers for that. Therefore, there are no points for that. But we do get this. So let's go ahead and draw in the rest, and you'll see what the graph actually looks like. So that's the square root of x graph, okay, and its points. And typically, I just use the 0, 0, the 1, 1, and the 4, 2 to help me make the graph. I usually don't mess with the decimal points, or the points that use decimals. Okay, lastly, let's look at the equation y equals the absolute value of x. And let's get rid of those guys. And there we go. And let's make a table for that. So we'll click here, go to the settings or the gear here, and we'll make a table for that. And now we get to use negative numbers because the absolute value of -2 is 2, the absolute value of -1 is 1, absolute value of 0 is 0, absolute value is 1 is 1, 2 is 2. And these are your points. There's the 2, -2, the -1, -1, 0, 0, there's the 1, 1, and there is the 2, 2. Alright, so you see the pattern that it makes. Let's fill in the rest of it. And there we go. We get a nice little V shape here. Okay. So these are the 3 graphs that we want to make over here. And I don't think I have a tool here that will let me write here. So minus the tool, I would draw them in for you, but at least I can show them to you and you can draw them in. Next, let's take a look at what happens when you start doing transformations. So we're going to just delete all these. We don't need these right now. If I need them, I will make more. But let's go back to x squared and that graph. And we're going to do a transformation of this. Let's add, let's see, number 3. Let's make this y equals the x again. But I'm going to put a plus 1 here. The plus 1 that I'm putting here is called a b parameter. Any numbers that you put add or subtract next to x will be a b, letter B as in B, parameter. And so what happens now is I get a new graph here. In fact, let's get rid of the graph and let's look. I want to take a look at the numbers. Let's look at the old graph and the old numbers. Okay. And for this one, we're going to take a look at the new numbers. Now, here you see the output of 41014. Okay, that's these right here. And you see that the 41014, we don't have the 4. We have the 1014 here, an extra 9. Let's don't use that just yet. But it's like we're missing a number, so I'm going to put in a -3 here. Let's see here. -2, and then go back up here, make this a -3. And with the -3, you see that you finally get your 4 back. Okay, so 41014, but starting at -2. Here, 41014, but now starting at -3. The reason why we can start with -3 now, rather than the -2, is that the +1 adds an extra number in there. So it means that we can go lower than -2 to get our 4. So we put a -3 in here, -3 plus 1. Together, that'll make a -2 finally, which is the same -2 we had before. And then we can square it and get 4. And so you notice that the numbers here, because of the +1, are shifting to the left. So if I were to graph this, let's go ahead and graph it and see what it looks like. There we go. It looks like someone shifted the original red graph here, x squared, over 1 time because of the +1. So you can imagine if I had a +2, let's put a +2 in there. Let's see what happens. It moves over again. Let's put a +2 here. And of course, I would need to have new numbers. Let's see, I can go back as far as 4 now. Let's go to -4. And now -3. And, oh, I don't need that. Okay, there we go. And so we have that pattern again of 41014 for output, but it starts from x is -4, which is back over to the left. So putting in these positive numbers will move your graph to the left. Let's see what happens when you put negative numbers in here. So let's put -1 here. -1. And then this will be -1 as well. So the b parameter now is -1, and you see that we have a shift, and the 41014 now starts at the -1. So let's get rid of all of these. And let's see here. Okay, so we got -101, and let's put in a 2. And there we go. There's our 4104. And so you have to use x as -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3, rather than the -2, -1. So, and it shifts everything over 1 time. Okay. So these b parameters, when you put in negative b parameters, everything shifts to the right. So let's see about what happens when you graph the -2. So let's put in a -2 and see what that graph will look like. And there's our graph. Okay. Looks like we're getting a 9. 9 is okay, but I'd rather maybe go 0, 1, 2, 3, and maybe one more. So let's delete this one this point right here. We don't need that. And I want to put in the x is 4. And I'm getting an extra value. I don't need that. But we have x is 4, and so we'll get an output of 4. So with these points, 0, 4, 1, 1, 2, 0, 3, 1, 4, 4, in this equation now, we get our new graph. So you're just shifting the old over 2 times. So we're taking the red graph and shifting it over 2 times to the right to get the blue graph. That is what we call a transformation using parameter B. Okay. Now, what happens when you put a negative on the outside? That's actually a -1. That's a parameter A. So let's take this guy right here. Can I copy him? Let's try. Copy. And then go down to number 5. Paste. Ah, it worked. Okay. So we have a new equation, and this is going to be in black. And let's put a negative on the outside, which is a -1 basically. Okay. And you see that it rotates around the x-axis. So it went from up here to down here. And what about my values? Let's see, my table values. Let's go get some table values. I see the -4, -1, 0. That's kind of the pattern that we had before. So I'm going to get rid of these first ones. I don't need this. And I don't need that. And let's put in 3 and 4. Okay. I like this. This is good. And let's get rid of that undefined there. Okay, good. Okay, so you put in 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and these are the outputs that you get. These are negative numbers. And that's because the answers are all being multiplied by -1. So instead of getting your 4, 1, 0, 1, 4, you're getting a -4, -1, 0, -1, -4 by putting the negative on the outside. So that's a negative A parameter together with a negative B parameter. Okay, finally, this 3 right here, plus 3, is a D parameter. So we're going to put a D parameter there. So let's just copy all this and see if we can paste that in here. Ah, it worked. Except for this guy. Okay, there it is. He's a square now. Alright, looks good. And it's getting really jumbled up here. So this is our first graph, which is x squared, the red one. X squared. Then we put a B parameter in here. That moves them over 2 times, which made him blue. This one right here. Then we put a negative here, and that gives our black equation, which flips them over this way. And then finally, the plus 3, which raises the whole thing 3 times. Okay, so those will be the 4 graphs that you'll need here. Your x squared, your x minus 2 all squared, your negative x minus 2 all squared, and then your negative x minus 2 all squared plus 3.